story in order to kind of keep growing. So I learn how to function within my Catholic better than everybody else family. But then after as I start to grow, then okay, I get it. Other people have different religions. Okay, fine. We begin to kind of integrate more broadly. Then we can kind of integrate into a bigger tribe, the tribe of Republicans, or the tribe of Americans, who are better than all the rest of the people, right? So we have divisions. And I will propose that where we are historically is trying to integrate yet another layer where tribes don't matter so much. But because we're so attached at at different levels to our identifications at these levels, it makes those integrations more difficult. It's sort of like a birth process every time. It's sort of like, the birth process when I was 2, flinging my body on the floor because I couldn't have a cookie, that I had to integrate certain qualities of my separateness and my emotions in order to function well. And that now, as a species, really, we're working to integrate these sort of tribal separations into larger wholes, larger senses of wholeness. And there's a birth process that's going on where we're struggling. It's, like the container is breaking. The container with which we have identified is breaking. But the whole process is held in this larger sea where none of it is real. It just helps me if I need to find, white privileged American girl Sharon's shoes. It helps, It helps. I know where they are and I know what they look like. So it has some practical utility, but it's really very limited. So our challenge, the challenge of our spiritual practice in general, and I will propose of our time, is to really kind of allow that kind of breaking apart of the things that we identify with to rest in this larger awareness of what is truly real. And what is truly real is this kind of deeper spaciousness, awareness of love, where there is no separation. And that's really what we're working with. Our capacities hopefully become greater and greater and greater and greater as we continue to practice with the very difficulties. We come into the edge, we go, this is as far as I can go, and then something has to crack open. I had to crack open as a 2-year-old in order to integrate some things and learn how to navigate at a more, at a richer, if you will, level. David White and his poem Sweet Darkness, I won't read the whole thing because I want you to be able to talk to each other. I'll put it on the website. But one of the, what he ends it is says, anything or anyone that does not bring you alive, meaning bring you alive into love, is too small for you. Anything or anyone that does not bring you alive is too small for you. That's the task of our spiritual practice, and I'll propose that's the task of our time. And we actually all know this. We each know that. You each know this, or you would not be in this room tonight. You'd be out buying a gun. Really. You'd be out doing something that would help you strengthen that sense of separateness that then needs to be protected. but you're here and you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm talking about. At some level, you know exactly what I'm talking about, or you wouldn't be here in this room. We recognize the dark, and we recognize the light, and we practice to cultivate the capacity to live the light. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. To daily, moment by moment, put up a tent in a hurricane. To know how to do it, to have the courage to do it, to have the faith that it's a good thing to do, to deal with the difficulties, the messes of it, and to keep going. So it helps us to take a different kind of refuge, that refuge in the Buddha, that refuge in the Dharma, that refuge in the Sangha. So I want to invite you to take a moment and touch personally into the ways that you know this is true. Where do you know that only love is real? Only love matters. And it could be something apparently very trivial and mundane. Seriously, it doesn't have to be profound. It could be that you know it's true because you love that fresh tomato that you ate in your garden today. Or you love being in your garden, pulling weeds. Or you love listening to music and you come alive when you hear it. Or you love your cat or your dog and there are moments of sweetness. Or you listen to someone on NPR or on the radio and you go, yes, thank you. So I'd invite you to contemplate for just a moment where right now, tonight, in these dark hours, where is your light? And where do you connect with it? It doesn't have to be fancy. Where is your light? And if you want to, turn to somebody and share. Talk about it. Some of you may not want to. Some of you may prefer to just contemplate it on your own. But talk to one another about what is sustaining you deeply. How do you know only love is real? Where do you know only love is real? How does it operate tonight in your life? Okay? Take a few minutes and talk to one another. I'll ring a bell. I know that's not enough time. I wanted to make a little space, though, if there is anything that wants to be spoken in the larger group. Does anybody want to speak to any of that?
A group of people met to process the weekend, and one story just that I shared with Jeff that he wanted me to say was that on Saturday morning, there was a service at the synagogue, which, if you know, is right on the edge of Lee Park. And the synagogue had requested police protection, and they were unable or unwilling to provide it. So there was just one hired security guard and a couple of members of the congregation who were looking at the people across the road who did not look very friendly. But all of a sudden, there was this very little old lady who was walking up the stairs, and the congregant didn't recognize her, but he went up to ask if he could help her, and she sort of just said, "No, I'm here for you guys, you know." And she says, "I'm Catholic, actually, but I'm here. This is the synagogue, and I'm here, you know." And I thought it was just one of these beautiful stories of love and light.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else want to share anything? Julie.
I have another one that I just sort of like that. So I was downtown, and there was a moment where I think it was after the state of emergency was called, and the National Guard were expelling people. There was a lot of chaos. It's a lot of chaos, obviously, and some of the young anti-protesters, so the protesters against the white supremacists, were sort of beginning to move towards the lineup of the National Guard with agitation. Behind the National Guard were sort of, I guess, the retreating white supremacist groups. And it was really tense. And this Episcopal priest in her black full garb, white collar, and Greg sort of got to talking to the young people who had been sort of getting agitated and moving towards the National Guard, who were all in riot gear with full arms. And there was just this kind of like bravery, courage, and ease, especially in that priest and the way she was moving. And it was almost like she was just politely saying, would you mind just stepping back a little bit? And maybe she was. Maybe that's all she was saying. But you could sort of see the tension release and people move back. And I swear I saw the National Guard breathe. I mean, of course I didn't, because they're all like, but I felt, I could just feel that. And so, again, it's like there's that moment where it was about love and kindness and respect, even in that moment. That's what it was. And who knows? There's probably, and of course, there were a million of those moments that did not result in people being shot. So.
Yeah. Actually, I have another story that somebody sent to me today that really follows on that beautifully. Jan Rivero, who is the pastor of the Methodist Church across from Memorial Gym at the university, sent this. And she's had some email exchanges, she said, with Richard Lord, who is a reporter who has met with her and interviewed her a number of times about what's happening. And he sent her this note. And here's what Richard Lord had to say. He said, I have seen many, many riots and refugees and difficult circumstances in my careers as an activist and as a journalist. Saturday would have been a bloodbath had it not been for the clergy, and I would propose for a lot of other people with those little old ladies and the moments of kindness. He said, smile with extra pride at what you accomplished. Per Indivisible, which is that national group, the Indivisible group, there have been actions in 684 sites internationally. We cannot be so self-indulgent, he says, as to be overcome with our grief. We must seize our place. The whole world is watching. Isn't that awesome? Yeah. Anyone else? I think we have time for one more. Anybody else? Yeah. Charlotte.
I think I heard another story today about that same little old lady. I mean, someone I know was telling me that there was an old lady, as he put it, who was carrying a great big container of water and offering it to anyone, whichever group she was, even when they were confronting each other. And he said he thought she stopped some confrontations because she was saying, would you like some water? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And so maybe that's our task, huh?
Can I say one more thing?
Of course, yes.
I just wanted to tell you that at about 9:30 on Saturday morning, there's this huge statue of Jackson in Justice Park. And there is our Buddha, Julie, sitting and leading this most exquisite meditation, just emanating peace and loving kindness. And next to us are a group of really agitated, protesters who are jeering and just saying really lousy things to rally us. But there was this amazing being who sat, just a Buddha. Thank you, Judy.
Right, right. So we know our own light and we bow to the lights of others. I'm going to read you one more thing, one more quote from Martin Luther King, and then we'll close with a little more music. Martin Luther King spoke and wrote often about reconciliation and community. He said, "The end is reconciliation, the end is redemption, the end is the creation of the beloved community. It is this type of spirit and this type of love that can transform opponents into friends. It is this type of understanding goodwill that will transform the deep gloom of the old age into the exuberant gladness of the new age. It is this love which will bring about miracles in the hearts of men." And I propose, and he proposes, and our practice proposes, we must remember. We must remember our own light. We must practice with our own light and trust that is the overflow of that light that is what is healing. We don't have to climb Mount Everest. That's our practice. I wanted to close with a bit of a chant. I actually, as many of you know, I was away teaching a retreat last week, and I wasn't, I guess I don't need both of these, do I? I wasn't around, this is better, isn't it? Let me use this one. So I wasn't around here, but I woke up about Wednesday morning and I had kind of an earworm of this chant that is the Four Boundless Qualities, the Brahma Viharas. And it was really kind of the backdrop of my days and nights. I was singing it in my sleep for the whole rest of the week. And so I wanted to bring it to you. And I emailed Amma this morning and I said, would you sing it and record it and send it to me? Which she did. And as a gift to you. So I would like us to at least follow along, and if you want to join in, you'll kind of get the feel for it. I have copies, but I very intentionally did not make enough copies for everyone. And the reason for that is is to kind of just remember that we can share. And this person sitting next to you, whatever the differences are, is. We live in illusion and the appearance of things. There is no separation. And so for us to really kind of share and connect and know that this person who's very different, who's not a white Catholic girl, is the same. We are the same. And we are love, and that's all we need to know. This is a typical Buddhist chant, and it just goes, they're just really 3 notes. And the little arrow tells you when to go up. You see those little carrots? And the little carrot tells you when to go down. And so you can follow along with Amma and either chant it with her or follow it along. Second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth, so above and below, around and everywhere, until all is to myself. I will abide in the all-encompassing world, with mind imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, the fourth, so above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide in the all-encompassing world, with a heart imbued with compassion, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without exhaustion, without ill will. I will abide, pervading one quarter, with a heart imbued with gladness, likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth, so above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide within the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with gladness, lovely, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without will. I will abide, pervading one quarter, with a mind imbued with equanimity, likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth, so above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself. I will abide, pervading one with a mind imbued with equanimity, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. So may it be an earworm for you. Many blessings. We have work to do. Go home and sleep. Blessings.